So I'm kind of mild-mannered, very calm. But once a month, I take off my clothes and I put on a different uniform. Once a month, I spend an hour and a half to 2 hours sitting with a team of people from all over the state of Connecticut. They are called the Action Team, and they are the action team of Connecticut Against Gun Violence. So the last meeting I had was in July. They canceled August and they canceled September meeting. But in July, they gave just a little synopsis of what we're facing. By the way, Connecticut Against Gun Violence is the oldest organization in the state. It was formed in 1993 after a shooting in Fairfield, and one of its founding members is Senator Richard Blumenthal. Can you read that sign? It says, gun violence costs $60 to $90 million every year in the state of Connecticut. It doesn't say that. This is a sign I hold up when Connecticut Against Gun Violence asks me to lobby in front of the Capitol. Can you read this? Don't worry about it. Someone is murdered with a gun in Connecticut on the average of once every 3 days. So by Wednesday, somebody will be dead. So here is a chart. It is a chart showing all the different reasons that are given to gun deaths. Can you figure out which is the homicide? Is it this one? How about this one? How about this one? How about this one? Okay, give me a thumbs up if you think it's this one. You got it. This is comparison of 2024, 2023. 2024 is orange. We've had a slight dip, but still, it's once every 3 days. Since the beginning of the year, and this goes up until May, there have been 87 deaths due to guns, homicide deaths. But then, this chart here shows you an increase in suicide deaths. We don't count those, but it has gone from about 1/2 of the number of deaths that homicide murderers commit to about 2/3 of the deaths. So suicide is a very serious issue, one which Connecticut Against Gun Violence has addressed. But they don't work only in Connecticut, meaning we are not subject only to Connecticut law. We're subject to the laws of the United States of America. And the United States of America is subject to the decisions made by the U.S. Supreme Court. And some of the laws that the United States created to protect us have been invalidated by the Supreme Court since they made a famous decision, or infamous decision, in 2022 called the Bruin decision, where the Supreme Court ruled that everyone has a right, virtually unimpeded, to own a weapon, and you can carry it wherever you want. It was Clarence Thomas who created a new definition of what legality meant when it dealt with a gun. Quote, It must be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation from the year 1791 to the 1860s, when the 14th Amendment was passed. You tell me. So what the Bruen decision did was unleash chaos in the world of gun regulations throughout the country. Chaos because it was unworkable. Lawyers are not historians. Neither are judges historians. As a matter of fact, what Clarence Thomas interpreted as the right to bear arms in his 2022 decision meant in 1791 the right to belong to a militia. Look it up. But in his infinite wisdom, he changed the meaning to its 2022 meaning. So as a result, there were decisions made by district courts. One prohibited the right. One demolished the prohibition of the right to keep a gun away from a predator, a convict, a convicted felon, also from an abuser. The government had a law, but in, John Roberts' wisdom, he overrode that decision so that we can protect people who are abused by their spouses now. Then there is the law called, which defines what a machine gun is. And the ATF said that bump stocks, which turn a semi-automatic weapon into a automatic weapon, is a machine gun. Sorry, that's not in the law. So now anybody could build a machine gun in their basement or buy one by just attaching it to their AR-15. And then finally, third biggest ramification of Clarence Thomas and the Supreme Court's ruling. They struck down what's called the Chevron deference, which means if the law is ambiguous, the courts can use the advice of a federal agency and its regulation power to make a decision on how to handle new regulation. Well, that's going to be bad for the ATF because they can no longer assume that when they make a decision, it's going to be upheld in the courts. Because right now there are over 1,800 cases against many of the ATF regulations. But there's a bright side. The bright side is the Surgeon General, for the first time ever, announced that gun violence is a health hazard and it is a public safety issue. And so he required public health agencies around the country to declare three things in their, to focus on three things in their public health outreach. One, to monitor the problem of gun violence. Two, to identify the risk and protective factors. Three, to develop and test prevention strategies. And four, to scale up successful solutions. Fortunately, in Connecticut, we've implemented just about every one of the Surgeon General's recommendations. To implement Community violence intervention programs? Check. In Connecticut, we have that. There was about $6 million allocated to programs to prevent violence in communities. Encourage health systems to facilitate education on the safe storage and handling of guns. Check. The legislature in Connecticut passed the law that every health practitioner has to ask the question, do you own a gun and how do you store it, and give a fact sheet on safe storage. Require safe storage and secure firearms. That's a check. Because last year, safe storage was improved, because in the past, only if you had a child under 18 did you have to store your weapon. Now, regardless of having children or not in your home, you must store your weapon if you are not carrying it on you, and it has to be locked. Fourth, implement universal background checks. Yes, that was done. We were one of the first states to do that in the country. Implement effective firearm removal policies. Check. In 1998 or 99, our representative, Arthur O'Neill, helped write the bill, which is called Extreme Risk Protection Order, that allows police and a judge to remove a gun from somebody's possession should they show violent behavior. And then finally, ban assault weapons and large capacity magazines. Check. In 1993, Connecticut was the third state to ban assault weapons. So we're fortunate. We are fortunate, and a lot of these laws came about due to Connecticut Against Gun Violence, my hero organization. Thank you. But the question is, was money attached to the Surgeon General's recommendations? I do not know if his specific recommendations had money attached, but I do know that President Biden established an Office of Gun Violence Protection in the White House, and the leader of that office has been Vice President Kamala Harris, and it has been funded, and some of that funding has come to Connecticut to allow Connecticut to fund these violent prevention programs that our health department is funding throughout the state. Okay, mostly in the cities. Okay, thank you.